we should leave immediately via the nearest fire exits and proceed calmly to the assembly point on the Berries Field. So this meeting is being webcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. If you are seated in the council chamber, it is likely that cameras will capture your image. You are deemed to be consenting to this and to the use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. So if you are speaking, this will be recorded and broadcast. May I also remind members of the public in attendance this evening that we appreciate respect to be shown to all those addressing the meeting. Interruptions or disrespectful behaviour will not be tolerated. So Kim, in a minute. Okay, we come to agenda item number, apologies for absence. Are there any?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have apologies from councillors Rubini, Clark and White, and Councillor Beeman is here substituting.
Thank you. Minutes of the last meeting. Committee, do you approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of March and published on the website? Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any? None.
None received, Chair.
And there are no questions by members of the public or by members. So we come to agenda item number 7, which is relevant updates to government guidance or legislation since we last met. Claire.
Chair, there are no updates for this evening's meeting.
Lovely. And then we come to the appeal decisions. Do you so note those? Noted. Thank you. So now we come to our agenda proper. And again, we must all listen to every presentation, to all the speakers. We must listen and be seen to listen. And we must listen with respect. Councillors who are appointed to this committee sit as representatives of the whole of Waverley. And so accordingly, we must act fairly, openly and apolitically, approach each planning application with an open mind and avoid preconceived opinions, carefully weigh up all the relevant issues, determine each application on its own individual planning merits, avoid undue contact with any interested parties, ensure that the reasons for our decisions are clearly stated, and decisions must be made in accordance with relevant statutory framework to include the National Planning Policy Framework, our own planning policies, and other material planning considerations. Each speaker has up to 4 minutes to speak, and this will be strictly adhered to so as to be fair. And speakers must address their comments to the application. So we come to agenda item number 9, and our first application is WA 2025-02153 Pinewood Lodge at Egerton Road. And this is going to be introduced to us by Anna. Over to you.
Chair, can I ask that we just pause for a moment, because
Yes.
we've got terrible feedback on the laptop, and I'm not sure that we can do a whole meeting listening to our echoes of our own voices.
Yep. Councillor
Just a
Monroe.
point of information, I'm the ward councillor, as is known. It's Eglinton Road, not Egerton Road.
Okay.
Although in the actual report, the road is got correctly.
Thank you.
Should we just try to see if that stopped? That's fine, isn't it?
No, it's
No.
still.
Apologies, members and members of the public. It was a brand new laptop, not tried before. Everything was all right last night and last time we met, but we believe we're ready to go. Anna.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a householder application for extensions and alterations, including a first floor terrace, PV panels, a basement with sunken courtyard and pool, and a detached garage following the demolition of existing extensions and outbuildings. The site is in the Rushmore area. Site's shown red and extends into the Blue Line area, which features woodland to the south. As the report sets out, the previous application was refused for a linear extension to the side with terrace overlooking to the north, which would have retained and added to the existing unsympathetic extensions, resulting in harm to the AONB, Greenbelt and neighbour privacy concerns, which are overcome by the current scheme. As detailed in the report and update sheet, the above ground floor space increase would be 39.9%, which accords with DM14. There would also be a new basement floor, but this would have no Greenbelt impact. The existing block plan shows the two outbuildings to be demolished along with the single-storey extensions. The deep gable extension here would be reduced in depth and height, forming a glazed link to the proposed contemporary two-storey extension, which would form an L shape with the existing building. The first floor terrace would be to the south, overlooking the garden, and the detached garage would be sited close to the existing access. This is the proposed basement with the sunken courtyard and pool. The ground floor plans, the two-storey extension would be 3 meters from the northern boundary. These are the first floor plans with the terrace on the south side. These are the front and east side elevations. So the original Victorian part of the property is the hipped roof element. Property has an architecturally disjointed appearance with a number of unsympathetic extensions. The single-storey extensions, which are finished in render, would be removed, and the original Victorian materials, proportions and features would be restored, including the central dormer, the arched brick headers to the front, and clay tile hanging to the first floor and brick finish to the ground floor. The two-storey gable extension would be reduced in depth and height, forming the glazed link to the contemporary two-storey extension with hipped roof with a shorter ridge than the existing building, but matching in height. And the extension would be timber-clad with a standing seam metal roof. This is the west side elevation, which is the road facing elevation. So these extensions would be removed, leaving the original older part of the building and the new two-storey extension. On the rear elevation, the window would be removed, so there'll be no overlooking to the north. These are visuals to the front of the property as proposed and the angle from the road and the basement sections. The proposed garage would feature a hipped roof and would be timber clad. This photographs from inside the site of the existing building, the front and side, and then looking across the site. This is the building as seen from directly outside of the site. And wider views of the property are limited in this area. The building is indicated by the red arrows. In summary, it's considered that the proposal has overcome the refusal reasons of the previous scheme, would accord with the development plan, and would not result in unacceptable harm to residential amenity, the character of the area, or other matters of public interest. And the recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions and informatives set out on page 81 of the agenda. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Anna. There are at least 5 speakers. The first is William Holloway. Mr. Holloway, you have 4 minutes from when you start speaking.
So my name is William Holloway. My wife and I live in Foxdale, which adjoins the property immediately to the north. And we are one of the many neighbours who have expressed real concerns about the proposal in over 40 letters of objection which have been lodged. Concerns are wide-ranging, covering various relevant planning matters. In the time I've available, I will just mention three of the more pertinent ones, which any one of which I believe constitutes grounds for refusal. First of all, the question of overlooking. The east elevation of the proposed extension has large glass areas which look onto our property. Of particular concern is a large full-height window to the first floor master bedroom, which is actually angled towards Foxdale and would certainly result in a serious loss of our privacy and that of our neighbours at Reedsdale. Secondly, I would mention the excessive noise and disturbance from the swimming pool. The pool is located close to the north boundary, just across the fence from our garden, in spite of the large plot area available where it could have been sited. Its position and nature, extensive poolside entertainment areas, for example, seem actually designed to cause the maximum possible disturbance to us. This is not speculation. We know from experience, since the applicants had previously installed a temporary pool in that area, noise levels from this were considerably in excess of what would normally be expected from permitted residential use, resulting in fact in the need for written complaints on several occasions from ourselves and other neighbours, and no amount of screening would ever prevent or mitigate this type of noise. It would seriously impact the use and enjoyment of our home and others, constituting unacceptable impact on residential amenity, which requires that the application be refused in the public interest. And finally, the question of scale and mass of this development. It would completely overpower the existing cottage. The proportion of new to retained is about 50-50, and it is equivalent in height to the existing cottage. It could never remotely qualify as subordinate to the host dwelling, and the visual impact is especially harmful to Greenbelt owing to its north-south orientation, giving it real prominence when viewed by passers-by in Eglinton Road. The area, as Anna has said, is close to the 40% limit, and adding the proposed basement to this, which doesn't count, of course, would more than double the area created. By any measure, the overall development proposed is excessively large. I'd like just to quote the words of the case officer, and I quote, "The proposal includes an extension of an existing building within the green belt, which would be disproportionate to the size of the existing building. This would constitute inappropriate development in the green belt, which is harmful by definition. Very special circumstances would need to exist, which would clearly outweigh the permanent harm to the green belt or any other harm in order to grant permission. There are no special circumstances here." In conclusion, I hope members have read the many letters of objection that have been submitted. This is not NIMBYism. This demonstrates a genuine, overwhelming collective concern to protect the unique character of our neighbourhood in which we all have chosen to live. The development would cause permanent and irreversible harm on so many levels and should not be allowed.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. The next speaker is Marguerite Wills. You two have 4 minutes from when you start speaking.
I am going to speak on the environment in the main. We live in a unique settlement surrounded by rare protected heathland of national importance near to Frensham Common, Frensham Little Pond and the Flashes. Due to man's impact, many of the rare protected species of flora and fauna are in decline. This is an area of dark skies with very little light pollution, which should be sustained for rare nocturnal species, such as birds like the nightjar, tawny owls, and short-eared owls, bats, including the pipistrelles, daubertons, and the long-eared, and the rare dragon and damselflies. Reptiles such as adders, smooth snakes, sand lizards, common lizards, some found on the Flashes, are all in danger of extinction from disturbance. I do accept modern change, but in this case, the proposed extension is overbearing, dominating the cottage, and the glazing could be a danger to birds flying into the glass. The level of noise and activity from swimming pools can be very intrusive, as sound carries here. Also, lights are detrimental to wildlife. Any mitigation over wildlife would have to be closely monitored, as the noise from a building site will be immense and detrimental to the wildlife living so close, as this is a large development and I feel out of context with the surrounding area of housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Irene Confield.
Actually, it's the other way round. It's Fiona first, please.
Okay, so Fiona Vetch. You also have 4 minutes from when you start.
Thank you. My husband Andy and I have been coming to this part of Surrey for over 10 years since we first met. We were married at Cowdray. We have 3 children, 2 of which go to Highfield and Brookham. 5 years ago, we bought Pinewood Lodge to make our family home, drawn by its extraordinary setting, its woodland and its closeness to nature. Our previous application was refused and local objections formed at that time. We took that seriously and have learned from the experience. We appointed a new architect with an entirely different approach, fully engaged in the pre-application process with key stakeholders and our neighbours. We invested considerable care in getting this right. Following Waverley Borough Council's recommendation, we commissioned a formal design review with Design South East, an independent expert panel. We revised the scheme carefully in response to their advice, including appointing a landscape architect to sensitively address the grounds. The results speaks for itself. Waverley's urban design officer confirmed the proposals are high quality and reflect the Surrey vernacular. Frensham Parish Council has no objections to the revised proposal. Waverley's planning team support the application and confirm all policies have been rigorously tested and met. We are acutely aware of the objections. There are only 3 direct neighbours. The site is well screened from the road, and the vast majority of objectors are not materially affected by the proposals. Objections may reflect the legacy concerns and local lobbying rather than planning considerations, and the planning record supports that. On the main points raised in the comments, AONB and design, Surrey Hills National Landscape Advisor raised no concerns. Design South East and Waverley's urban design officer both confirm this is a high-quality scheme using visually recessive materials that respect the local vernacular. Scale. Extension falls within the 40% above ground threshold, does not have an adverse effect on the green belt and complies with all policies. Privacy. Neighbouring homes are more than 25 metres away. We've removed northerly windows. Eastern windows already look toward the dense boundary trees 40 metres away and do not look into neighbours' homes. Waverley states there are no privacy concerns. Light. We removed a window, a roof light and a large perspex roof area and designed recessed windows and overhangs to manage light escape. Noise. Children playing outdoors and adults socialising at home is not usually a planning matter. The pool pump is being relocated underground. The Parish Council confirmed their noise and light concerns have been fully addressed in the proposal you are reviewing. Trees and ecology. Bat roost features and a native hedgerow are integrated into the scheme. 4 to 5 times more trees have been planted than removed, biodiversity is improving. We love this place. We are putting down roots in every sense of the word. We ask the committee to assess its application on its planning merits. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Eileen Confield. You two have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. Right, thank you very much. I think I would like to backtrack one last time to the beginnings of this proposal when we took over, which really is that Pinewood Lodge, as we came to understand it, is one of the very first developments in the area. It was originally a very small thatched cottage, and then later very boldly expanded by the Victorians with a 2-story big building mass. Later on again, in the 50s, numerous smaller extensions, which are not very in keeping with the design. So what we have today is actually the remnants of the very first big, bold extension, the Victorian building part, and the thatched original cottage was demolished, and the northern half of the site with Foxdale now on it sold off. So the property is really noteworthy because of the history. It's got a unique location, but it's fallen into disrepair, and it really is in need of renovation. So our key driver for this proposal, first and foremost, is conservation, the conservation of the Victorian building part and respectfully adding to it. Now, this is, in our case, a contemporary extension, and that is the quality we're trying to deliver. It is fully sustainable, following the principles of Passive House. It provides renewable energy with solar panels on a bespoke designed roof, which is optimized for the orientation. The new extension is located in an existing clearing in the center of the building and is set further away, creating a new link with an existing 50s extension to keep a distance and respect the original building mass. As Fiona mentioned, we're also removing all windows and openings facing the northern boundary, most notably, as a really big planning gain, an 18 square meter perspex roof and a roof light. So dark night skies are actually considered fully and integrated into the design. Also with the perception and development of the fenestration, all windows are recessed into the facade or covered by canopies and roof overhangs. So we've very carefully tried to work with the policies, and we're very grateful to Anna, the case officer's support all along the way, also recommending the appointment of Design Panel Southeast as an independent expert to check whether we're on the right track, whether the quality of the design is special and can be taken forward for this scheme. All this has been a process very long in the making, 1.5 years. And we've gone through multiple rounds of reconsideration and changes to try and really fine-tune all the elements down to a landscape proposal, which is very untypical for a householder extension application. With this, we wanted to really ensure that the biodiversity and the ecological quality of the woodland half of the site are also transported into the remaining parts, and the new setting is created, which was previously lost by the sell-off of the land and the demolition of the original cottage. We've tried very hard to take everybody on board, but we appreciate that this is a difficult process, and everybody is entitled to their own opinions. But the distances, such as 42 meters from our windows towards the next boundary, speak for themselves as they comply with policies. So we very much hope for the support of the committee today, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. And as ward councillor, Councillor Monroe, you also have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd like to start with saying what I'm about to say is not a criticism of the very detailed report that officers have done. But I do think the balance in some section it could be improved, and I'll just go through that. I think the report understates the great amenity value of what I'm going to call the Rushmore estate. As has been said, it was laid out quite some time ago, and to my mind, knowing the area well, it is pretty well unique in that area. It's not uniform, but it has a fantastic balance of well-designed buildings, green spaces, and visual views. So I would hope that colleagues would think we impair those at our peril. It's not just Greenbelt. It's Greenbelt, I think, of outstanding value. And my belief is, listening to the cogent objections, is that this extension would impair that, both in the immediate locality, and we've heard all about the impairment of the views from Foxdale, for instance, but also in the wider area. The second point I would like to make is obviously I accept the figures that officers have given as to percentage increases, and what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I accept that the above ground increase is just under 40%, but the total increase, including the basement, is some 86%. And if I can quote from officer's report, that is therefore inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. And I hope I pointed out, this is not just Greenbelt, this is Greenbelt Plus. And so there must be very, very special circumstances which will allow this development, and colleagues will make up their own mind, of course, but I believe we've heard some pretty good evidence that there are that bar has not actually been reached. There are a considerable number of objections. I counted 21. This is for the revised proposals, and if you read those, you will understand there is enormous concern. I have spoken to several residents, and completely unprompted by me, I may say. They did express not just concern, but real worry of the ill effects in terms of noise, especially for the swimming pool, intrusion, the views, and so on. So I do hope colleagues will take that very seriously into account. I think that's all I wanted to say at this stage, Madam Chairman. I think I'm allowed a bit of a summing up in due course. So thank you very much.
You are indeed. Yes, 2 minutes summing up at the end. So, members, over to you. Councillor Coburn.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. This is really difficult. You know, in many ways, well, I fully understand what everyone's just said from the public gallery. But I think this is really on balance. I suppose I ought to declare a personal interest in as much as my life is blighted by a family who spend all their time with such bright lights in the garden and screaming and shouting. The idea of discipline is completely gone. You know, I have to rein myself in when I see some of these balconies and swimming pools and realise, you know, it's the modern way and it's what people sort of want to do. I was disappointed when I first saw this because I liked the idea of what we were trying to achieve on this site, which was to remove extensions that really were not fit for purpose. Driving here, I always pass a 60s, 70s house with bits added on, and I always think that needs a thoroughly good makeover. You know, it's a real 60s ugly duckling, and it really needs to be turned into a swan. Looking at this one, I don't think we can turn it down on planning issues. I really don't. You know, it does tick all the boxes. The applicants have worked hard with the officers, with design. The fact that I don't like it, you know, isn't relevant. I would have preferred something a little less in your face and a little less glass looking, even though I take on board that this is very sustainable and It's the future. I find it really, really difficult, this sort of thing, because getting the balance right between the right of a homeowner to extend the home, especially if the family is growing, but the right of neighbours to have their amenity unharmed or harmed in as little way as possible is always going to be a difficult issue. But on balance, I think I have to come down in favour of what the officers say. I don't think in planning policy terms that we can turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spence.
Thank you very much. I'm a little both troubled and confused here by the report. Picking up what Councillor Monroe mentioned in terms of the size, the report very much clearly says that the proposal is considered to be inappropriate development because I believe of its size, and therefore very special circumstances are required. The report, though, in pages 80 and 81, then I think attempts to deal with those very special circumstances. I'm confused because I heard someone say that the basement was not included. On the other hand, the report suggests that it is included in that size. If very special circumstances are required, I don't see on pages 80 and 81 of the report anything compelling that's telling me that that bar is satisfied. So unless I hear otherwise during this debate, I think I will probably be declining this on those planning grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. So the 39.9% increase in floor space above ground accords with policy DM14. The very special circumstances, which are set out in section 17 of the report, are that the remaining additional floor space is underground. So that would have no impact on the openness or purposes of the green belt. So that is considered to constitute very special circumstances, because the impact on the green belt, the effect of the extensions are the 39.9%, which is above ground.
May I come back, Madam Chair? From that understanding, therefore, that the existence of a basement, not just on this case, but generally, is one that doesn't count at all, even though a basement has certainly impacts upon surface water and water generally. Can you confirm that we are to exclude any contemplation of a basement?
Thank you. A basement is part of the application, and you can consider any other policies or relevant material considerations in respect of it. But just in terms of its impact on the green belt, it has no effect on the openness or purposes of the green belt.
Thank you. Councillor Weldon.
Thank you. I want to make just 2 points. The first one is, yes, it is clearly a very substantial extension, but it is also a very substantially sized site, and I think it could bear with that. The other point I want to make is simple. We've already heard from one of the speakers. It's been subject to a series of unsympathetic extensions over the years. This proposal aims to improve on what is there, and so I'm quite happy to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Chairman. What we're looking at now is immeasurably better than what there was before. I can understand the residents surrounding it are worried about light pollution, But I do wonder whether perhaps the applicant could be talking to the neighbours about the siting of the swimming pool. It's not a planning application, but it's a neighbourly consideration. And I would have thought that maybe, you know, that may allay some of the unhappiness that they are finding. So maybe that's something that the applicant could consider. But I mean, I don't see that we can really refuse this, but I would ask them to think about that.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No. Councillor Munro, you have 2 minutes to sum up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to make one point, and this is the green belt issue, which officers have stated. Openness and views is not the only reason why green belt should be valued and protected. The fact is that this is a substantially larger house, even though much of the extra is below ground level, but it's still a bigger house. And I hope colleagues will reflect that in their deliberations on this. My final point is the objections by neighbours and people further afield who love this part of the world quite rightly. I do hope that they can be properly taken into account on your decision. I think that's all I need to say, and best of luck to you.
Thank you indeed. So the recommendation, members, is that subject to conditions, permission be granted. When your lights on the console show, please vote.
Thank you, Chair. That's 7 in favour, 1 abstention and 2 against.
So that is carried. Our next application is WA 2026 00229, Hatchings the Drive in Godalming. And this is for the erection of extensions and alterations to elevations, the erection of a bin store and the demolition of existing attached garage. Justin, welcome, and over to you.
Here we go. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so this application has been referred to the Planning Committee at the request of the Ward Councillor. So it relates to Patchings, the drive in Godalming. The proposal is for the erection of extensions and alterations to elevations, the erection of a bin stall and demolition of an existing attached garage. So site location, so as you can see, the applicant's site is highlighted in red on the left, is located to the south side of the drive, and also within the settlement boundary and developed area of Godalming. To the right, you can see the aerial view shot of the applicant site. So proposed block plan. So the area highlighted in, well, the area in white shows the footprint of the main dwelling. The area highlighted in yellow shows the existing rear conservatory and single-storey side extension, so having a garage, which are to be demolished. And the area hatched in blue shows the extent of the proposed development extensions. And as you can see, the proposed block plan also details the separation distances from the neighbouring boundaries. So we have the existing and proposed ground floor plan. To the left, you have the floor plan as it exists, and to the right, you have the proposed floor plan. Again, you have the existing proposed first floor plan, and to the first floor plan existing to the left and the proposed to the right. And lastly, you have the existing and proposed roof plan, existing to the left and proposed to the right. Existing and proposed elevations, as you can see, the front elevation as existing on the left, showing as it exists now, and also proposed elevations on the right, both front and rear. And furthermore, existing and proposed elevations showing the sides. As you can see, the proposed development extensions would appear subordinate to the main dwelling, where roof heights would be set below the existing ridge levels. Furthermore, the proposed two-storey side extension would be sufficiently set back from the front elevation of the proposed main dwelling, from the main dwelling itself, by approximately 1.5 metres. So part of the proposal is for the removal of the existing corbelling brickwork. As you can see, the applicant property photo, which is located to the far left, the proposal would remove this in favour of full plain white external rendering on the surrounding elevations of the applicant dwelling. As you can see in the photographs, there are a few examples where neighbouring properties have been extended and modernised, and it's similar in line as to what's being proposed here in terms of the external rendering brickwork. And therefore, the development will not unacceptably impact the character of the area more so than what already exists. So we have some site photographs showing the front and rear of the property. So the front, which is the northern elevation, showing what the front looks like from the main road, the drive. Also to the far left, you have views taken from within the rear itself, showing towards the rear of the garden to the south. And on the far right, you have a photo showing the rear elevation of the applicant dwelling itself, which is on the southern elevation. Further site photographs show the relationship with neighbouring sites. So on the far left, you have West Gable, and on the right, you have views from the rear of the house towards Free Chestnuts. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. There are several speakers. The first is David Wilson. You have 4 minutes from when you start, Mr. Wilson.
Dear committee, I live with my family at West Gable, which is next door to Patchings. While we object to this proposal, we do not object to development at Patchings per se. Indeed, far from it. It is a lovely house, but can see it needs some TLC. Hence, where we've referred to the local planning guidelines, it's not because we wish to find reasons to oppose this proposal. We have cited these because they show what Waverley thinks is a reasonable way of assessing how to reach a fair balance of the interests that a proposal may put in conflict. We ask that this common sense approach be applied here. As an initial point on the so-called restricted scale of the extension in the report, hopefully you've been provided with some photographs that I've taken from my back garden, one of which includes a render that I've generated from the 2D plans that have been filed. It's not perfect, but is accurate for scale and position. Hence, I've provided a without as well, so you can see that. The extension is clearly massive, and to call it restricted in scale by reference to the footprint of the existing conservatory and garage does not bear scrutiny. Most of the extension will lie outside these footprints, and further, the existing conservatory and garage are single-storey with pitch roofs, whereas the proposed extension is 2 stories tall with gabled roofs. Turning to the harm that we will suffer at West Gable, the first is that the depth of the rear 2-story extension and its closeness to our boundary fence will cause significant overbearing and overshadowing. The case officer acknowledges that this could be the case and that there are prima facie breaches of the SPD guidelines in respect of both size and closeness, but, we say incorrectly, dismisses these concerns as follows. First, the extension will extend to approximately the same depth as the conservatory on the rear of our house. However, our conservatory is single-storey with walls and a roof made of glass and is of limited width on the other side of the property. To compare the effect of this with a full-width, solid 2-story extension does not make sense. In fact, as the photographs taken from my kitchen table in said conservatory, in which again I've inserted an accurate render of the dimensions of the extension, show that my family's main living space will in fact be significantly overborne and overshadowed by the proposal. The reverse is certainly not true. Second, it is said that the extension maintains the existing distance between the properties rather than making it smaller, and so does not change the current level of overbearing. This is simply wrong. The reason the existing gap is acceptable is because the 2 houses are currently lined up next to each other. Neither but overbears the other. Hence why the SPD's guidelines 3mm separation requirement is concerned with the closest to the boundary of any proposed extension. The case officer's flawed reasoning here does not come close to the exceptional circumstances mentioned in the SPD to justify a significant breach of this 3-metre guideline. Lastly, the report states that the size of our garden justifies the overshadowing and overbearing that the extension could cause. This could be relevant if the house being extended was halfway up my garden, but it's not. The extension will be right next to the rear windows of my house and in the immediate area outside where we spend most of our time, which cannot be moved elsewhere, as is implied. Our second objection is a loss of privacy caused by the new, large, clear-glazed side-facing window. This is in breach of the guidelines as it overlooks and is too close to my private amenity space, my rear patio. It's within 18 metres. See again the photo taken in my garden to see the overlooking effect. This concern, which relates to the only part of our garden that's not already overlooked by either of our neighbours, has not even been mentioned in the report. In addition to this, it appears to us that the case officer has treated each issue or breach of the guidelines in isolation and failed to consider the proposal as a whole. Given the number of objections filed, both by individuals and the Town Planning Committee, at some point it must be sensible to step back and ask, can it be right that multiple different breaches of the guidelines affecting several neighbours need to be explained away in order to grant approval? In my view, if this is asked, the only reasonable answer is no. For this reason, I urge this committee to refuse permission to this proposal. Allowing it will have an irreversible and significant effect on how my family enjoy the home we have lived in for 22 years and in which we hope to live for at least as long again. Refusing permission or adjourning to allow amendments to be made does not preclude Patchings being extended. That will still be possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. And the next speaker is John Porrell. You two have 4 minutes from when you start speaking.
Hello, I'm John Porrell. I live at 3 Chestnuts with my wife Rose, and we've lived there for the last 13 years. Like David, we do not oppose a smaller, more sympathetically designed extension, as Patchings is already a large 4-bedroom detached house. It is difficult to understand how the case officer can state the proposal is moderate in scale and size when the extension would increase the habitable floor area by 82%. This is clearly shown in the documents we submitted, which, along with the dimensions, are missing from the application. Justification for the size of the extension based on the existing conservatory and garage footprint is unreasonable, as most of the proposed extension would extend beyond this footprint. The excessive size of the proposal is the primary reason it fails so many of the SPD guidelines. Failure of the 4-metre maximum depth guideline for rear extensions is recognised. However, 5.3 metres is the proposed depth from the original building line. The case officer has justified this by instead using a narrow single-storey conservatory, whereas the proposed extension is 2 storeys across most of the plot with gabled roofs. The original house should be used as the reference, preventing successive extensions using the latest addition as the new datum. Failure of the minimum 3 metre to boundary guideline is also acknowledged, but the case officer has justified this by stating that as we have a large garden, the property would not be overshadowed by a 2-storey extension 1 metre from our boundary. The size of our garden is irrelevant when considering the loss of light to the only windows in our main living room. The existing patio and the whole of our garden would be overlooked due to the extension being so close to the boundary. We cannot move our house or patio elsewhere to enjoy them, as he has implied. This 2-storey, 3-gable wraparound extension extends beyond 3 chestnuts by 2.5 metres, only 1 metre from the boundary, resulting in a greater sense of enclosure and overbearing than identified in the case officer's report, and significantly overshadowing our main living room. The side extension fails the 45-degree rule, as we have secondary windows to a study and bedroom on our flank wall. The case officer agrees that the proposal is in breach of this rule. However, it is not by the limited amount he states. This line intersects both side and rear extensions for the whole 12-metre distance the SPD stipulates, a major infringement of the guidelines causing loss of light. The applicant will know this as their north-facing rooms continue to benefit from 1930s design dual aspect windows, as these are unhindered by a similar 2-storey extension. Groundworks will likely damage the roots of our existing mature tree on the boundary, which is not dead, as the applicant has stated on the topographical survey. Finally, the proposal would result in loss of a unique character property in the road. The precedent referred to by the case officer for other properties in the road is misleading, as these have been extended sympathetically in their original style and design, adhering to the guidance in particular at 2-storey level. The only 2 fully rendered houses in the road were designed and built in that style. Approval of this application will have a lasting detrimental impact on us in our forever home and undermine the principles of the Waverley SPD, whereas the applicant could resubmit with a more sympathetic proposal that is within the guidelines. Thank you for your consideration, and we ask that you reject this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Porrell. And as ward councillor, Councillor Juice, you too have 4 minutes.
Does the applicant not speak at this point?
They
Or
haven't registered.
they have registered?
Is that the one I gave you?
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
that the one I sent you or the one I've put on your
Ah,
desk?
it's the, okay. I beg your pardon, Mr. Austin. You too have 4 minutes.
Committee. My name is Greg Austin. I'm here with my wife, Sarah Austin. We're the owners of Patchings on the Drive. We brought the house in December 23 as our forever home. We have grown as a family since we've moved to Patchings as well. We're a family of 5 now. We have an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old. We both work from home as well, so we do require space for current working arrangements. Patchings was in a state of disrepair when we bought it. We want to modernise and extend our family home for the reasons I've stated. There'll be benefits for the children in extending the property in terms of study space, personal space and space to play. There'll also be benefits for us in terms of space for working from home. We also have family who live out of the area, so we want an ensuite guest bedroom, including my mum, who has some underlying health issues. So we want somewhere for family members and friends to stay when they come and visit. And we also want a family hub for hosting family gatherings like we've had over the road where our father-in-law lives. So we've had family gatherings over there for many years, but for many reasons, we now want to start having family events at home. The style and size of the proposed extension, we believe, is in keeping with some of the other properties on the drive, as has been outlined by the case officer. We've received expert advice throughout the process from our architect and as part of the pre-planning consultation that we had with the case officer. We discussed the proposed plans with the neighbours before it was published on the portal. And we've subsequently consulted the planning team, the arboriculturists and the local councillor. And as a result of the process we've been through, we have made some amendments to the design, including bringing in a corner adjacent to the west boundary. And we, as part of the pre-planning application advice, introduced a Velux window on the east elevation, and we've made changes to bring it in at the front as well. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you to Waverley for the support and for Adam for his support throughout this process. We look forward to hearing from you at the outcome of this committee.
Thank you. So Councillor Juice, over to you now. You two have 4 minutes from when you start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the planning application has received 9 objections from local residents, which you'll have seen on the portal. As outlined by residents who've spoken against the planning application, the material planning concerns identified are overdevelopment, with 76.2% increase in floor area, loss of light, scale, bulk and mass, overbearing and not in keeping with the street scene. Godalming Town Council's Environment and Planning Committee in March, as the Godalming Town Ward Councillor for Godalming Holloway, I communicated the material planning concerns put forward by neighbours of the planning applicant. These were agreed by fellow ward councillors, Councillor Hegan and Councillor Martin, and the committee collectively agreed to oppose the application based on conflict with the Godalming and Farncombe Neighbourhood Plan Policy God 5, objecting to it on the following grounds: scale, massing and design concerns, unsympathetic design, potential harm to unique character and appearance, and residential amenity impacts, loss of light, overbearing and privacy, with the Town Council requesting Waverley Borough Council refuse the application. Since Godalming Town Council's Environment and Planning Committee meeting, I met with the planning applicant, who had, in conjunction with the planning officer, adapted the proposed designs to mitigate some of the concerns put forward by neighbours. And these mitigations were made after that town meeting. The mitigations included side extension setback, so following the guidance in the Residential Extensions SPD regarding the prevention of a terracing effect, the proposed side extension has been amended. The latest drawings include clear dimensions showing a 0.5 metre setback from the front elevation. Also, the rear extension has been significantly modified at the boundary with West Gable. Upon further investigation, it was noted that the neighbouring window serves a habitable room rather than a garage. And to remain compliant with the 45-degree rule, the extension has been set back from the boundary, reducing the proposed floor area by approximately 9 square metres, a 7% reduction. Having visited Patchings, I can confirm that the rear of the property is in need of repair, modernising, and therefore of development to accommodate the applicant's family. In terms of the officer's report, and I think key areas for the committee to consider, on page 91, the officer's report includes the wording, the proposed rear two-storey extension would appear subordinate to the main dwelling, where its roof height would be set below the existing ridge levels. So members should consider the extent to which subordinate could be applied to the extension in terms of floor plan increase. Additionally, on page 92, the report includes the wording that proposed rear storey extensions should not come to within 3 metres of the neighbouring boundary, according to the CPD, as to avoid unacceptable overbearing. However, presumably any form of extension would be in breach of that, no matter how small, because of the distance between properties, if I've understood that correctly. Equally on page 93, and has been mentioned, the potential overshadowing onto the immediate area, West Gable, and 93 to 94 for 3 Chestnuts, is the degree to which members should consider the size of the neighbouring plot being material for the objection of overshadowing, and also the size of the garden or size of plot being material in terms of the objection of overshadowing. It's a tricky application, and hopefully I've represented both sides fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Juice. Members, over to you. Councillor Steiger.
With a question, the two-storey extension. Two-storey extension, how close is it? Is it 1 metre or 3 metres from the boundary? I'm a bit confused now.
Yep. So in relation to the sides two-storey extension, it's distance sufficiently distance from the boundary to 3 Chestnuts at approximately 1 metre, which would accord with SPD guidelines. In relation to the proposed two-storey rear extension, this would be distance at approximately 1 metre from the boundary with 3 Chestnuts and 1.5 metres from the boundary of West Gables.
Thank you.
Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wonder if we could take another look at the plan. It's the first diagram, I think, that you showed. Good, thank you. I'm just looking at the plan. I'm not talking heights here, but at the plan view, it would seem to me that Patchings is not very much closer to the boundary than 3 Chestnuts is, and of course on the other side, West Gable has gone right up to the boundary, and just looking at the plan, I can't see that the extension would be treating those 3 houses inequitably, as it were. What, have you got any comment on that?
So the proposed rear two-storey extension, while within the recommended 3 metres, would while it would not fully accord with SPD guidelines, the pattern of development as existing comprises neighbouring properties, 3 Chestnuts and West Gable, of 2-storey height, and which are located in close proximity to the boundaries. Therefore, the proposed development, while within the recommended 3 metres, would respect the existing pattern of development in this particular case. Yep.
Councillor Coburn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I also ask for the elevations as they currently stand at the moment? Can I see what's there? Because I do have concerns about this, you know, because they are so close. Right, can you, no, sorry, I don't mean the elevations of this one. Well, I do actually, but having seen that, could you show the pictures of the relationship of the existing properties? Is whatever we had. I just really want to get a feel of how close and what's overlooking at present. There was another one, wasn't there, as well? And those are three separate photos, aren't they?
Yes, so the site photographs here, as you can see, show the relationship with the neighbouring sites. They will show the rear of the properties. These are the only photos which I have at the moment.
I mean, I'm trying to establish really what current overlooking there is, or whether the extensions, even though it's closer, doesn't have any overlooking or detrimental impact. Because I think that's really just the main nub of this, isn't it? Whether the changes to the two-storey extension have indeed addressed the worries.
So in relation to the overlooking aspect, is that the sort of issue you're making?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, yes, please.
Okay, so as you can see here, the existing proposed elevations are showing the sides. So the proposed elevation, which is shown on the top right-hand corner, shows so that we have a proposed roof light which fronts the neighbouring Free Chestnuts. This proposed roof light would be high level and therefore would not give rise to any unacceptable impact in terms of overlooking loss of privacy. And as you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, you have the proposed first floor level flank window. This particular window would directly front the neighbouring roof, which neighbouring West Gables. And it is noticed that the neighbouring dwelling, West Gables, does feature an existing first floor level flank window. However, this particular window is located further to the front of the property and which would not be in direct line with the proposed first floor level window. Therefore, in this particular case, that would not result in any unacceptable overlooking and loss of privacy in relation to both neighbouring sites.
Could I just come back on that, because we've had lots of mention of the large plot, which to me is totally irrelevant to this application. And this application is all about whether or not the concerns of the scale and bulk of this rear extension, you know, actually have a detrimental impact on the neighbours. You know, you have the option to build something in that ground for home office and that sort of thing. I mean, that's the advantage you have when you've got a large garden, but it's irrelevant to this particular application. And I still find it very much on balance to try to work out whether or not this has really overcome the fears of overlooking, because there's no question, you know, a single-storey conservatory is something that's very, very different from a two-storey extension with everything that carries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to permit myself to speak, if I may. As a long-term Godalming resident, I know that this house is loved as part of the street scene for its distinctive art and craft style and appearance, and from which it presumably gets its name. So I am weighing up whether that is sufficiently a detrimental impact. I'm just weighing that up myself. Thank you. Councillor Gale.
Yes, for me, it's the bulk of those two-storey sides going up next in close proximity, really, to the neighbouring properties. I couldn't get my head around which way the sun rises and sets over there, but I think that there would be an impact to what is there already. with the rear gardens of the houses on either side. It's a very big bulk going on the back. The single stories are not that overbearing. Everybody's got small conservatories and what have you, and single stories. But when you get to a large bulk with that large flank wall, especially on the side of the 3 chestnuts, I think that's quite overbearing from what I'm looking at. And also I'm quite concerned about the window. Although they say it is set further back, it's still a window, and it's very close to the property next door. So I have some concerns on that side of it, but I'm actually with you as well, Madam Mayor. The house itself is actually quite a thing in the road there, and it can't help but be noticed. Thank you.
Claire. So, members, if I can just come in a minute. Without a doubt, this is, a 2-story extension to the side of the property. But I think, members, what you do need to be mindful of is that you have properties to either side. One is on the boundary, and the 3 chestnuts is actually set further back than the application site, and therefore what you would then see as the rear extension is less than the depth of the actual extension, if that makes sense. You have got, obviously, the extension running along the whole of the boundary, but that's going towards the front. So from the back garden, unless you are constantly looking in the back garden to the front, you know, the impact of the extension is only the difference between the rear of 3 chestnuts and the rear extension, so that depth. In terms of the window, you will need to think of that in the context of what loss of privacy that is, and you'll see that from the block plan that the first floor window is on the side elevation facing onto West Gables. And as Justin has explained, the window in West Gables is further back than the proposed window. So it's just going to be looking on the side of that dwelling, stroke potentially slightly on the roof of that dwelling. In terms of the change in character, you're right, the existing building is a unique design and clearly of its time. However, members, you do need to be mindful that rendering that property wouldn't require planning permission in its own right. So you do need to sort of put that into your thinking in terms of, is there planning harm, stroke, is there sufficient harm to justify refusal?
Thank you. You want to say more? Yes.
Yes, sorry, I also meant to mention, am I right in, somebody said this is an 82% increase on the bulk that's there at the moment. Is that correct?
So while the proposed development would result in a significant increase, bear in mind this is within developed area of Godalming, outside the green belt. And can I just make further comments? So the proposed development, the rear 2-story extension, which will combine with the side 2-story extension. So as you can see, the applicant dwelling features staggered elevation. So you would have the proposed 2-story rear extension, which would extend from beyond the inner rear elevation by approximately 5.3 meters, resulting in a projection from the furthest outer rear elevation of roughly 2.6 meters, with a considerable area or footprint located within and set back from this outer rear elevation. While there is a significant increase, I don't have the page with me. I can understand there's concerns in relation to the significant increase in bulk of the proposed development. However, furthermore, the bulk of the proposed development would be located to the rear, which would the large bulk of development would not be visible in the public realm when viewed from the drive.
Just to summarise that, we can't confirm that it's 82% by the sounds of it, but it's the relevance of whether it is or isn't in terms of planning harm. So there's no policy within the built-up area that prevents you doing 182%. It's whether the impact of doing that is such that it would be unacceptable in planning terms.
Yes, it was just to get a feel for how much is going onto the building that is there now. If it's 80% bigger, it gives you an idea. We're not there, so it gives you an idea of what's actually being lumped on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keane.
Thank you. Yes, one of the speakers was discussing the fact that this two-storey extension is going to completely blocks the light from their conservatory. So I can't remember which side, I think it was this side. But, you know, I'm concerned about the bulk and mass and any sort of bearing that it has on the neighbours. But it's very difficult to see. I think Councillor Coburn alluded to the fact that, you know, we couldn't see the difference between the houses. The photographs weren't, I don't think they were that good, to be honest. But I have got concern that this two-storey extension is going to impact greatly on that particular conservatory.
So just to make a further comment, so in relation to the loss of lights concerns, in relation to the 45-degree rule, so the proposed development, appropriate assessment has been made. While the proposed development would not fully accord with the SPD guidelines, you have to note that the neighbouring Three Chestnuts dwelling features existing flanked ground and first floor level windows on the side, which is here. And these windows serve habitable rooms, which are dual aspects in that they have an additional primary window located to the front elevation, and therefore in this particular respects, the proposed development would not unacceptably result in loss of light and overshadowing. As the proposed rear two-storey extension as well, when measured from the rear elevation, the window as an existing window serving a habitable room located on the rear elevation of Three Chestnuts. Again, the proposed rear two-storey extension would not be in breach of the 45-degree rule. Similarly with West Gables, when measured from the closest window, ground floor level window serving a study room, the proposed extension would not be in breach of the 45-degree rule, and therefore it would not give rise to unacceptable loss of light.
Councillor Sullivan.
I think personally, if officers and the council are telling me that this is reasonable and compliant, I'll take that at face value. And I do think, although this is not a planning consideration, time and time again, it is incredibly difficult. And especially in my patch, I see a lot of young families and growing families really, really struggle to be within the confines of the house that they started with. And I just think that, again, not a planning consideration, but given the cost of living crisis and given how much expensive stamp duty is and the cost of moving and having to accommodate, I'm pretty keen that if a family is expanding and looking after elderly parents and having to deal with all situations of life, and if officers in the council are telling me that this is reasonable and within planning policy, I'm taking that at face value. And I think that has led me to pretty be assured that I'm probably going to vote in favour for this.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No. Councillor Juice, you have 2 minutes to sum up, should you wish.
I don't think I've got anything further to add, actually. I think I was pleased with the range of thoughts put forward by the councillors. I don't know whether I can encourage councillors to remind themselves of what's on the planning portal in terms of some photographs of side-by-side comparisons. I assume every councillor on the committee has seen these in advance, though. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation that, subject to conditions, permission be granted. When your lights show on the console, please vote.
Thank you, Chair. So that's 8 in favour, 2 abstentions and 1 against.
So that is carried. Our next application is WA 2025 01495. The Beefeater Restaurant, the Bourne Mill Business Park, Guildford Road, Farnham.
Is this not subject to public speech?
No, it's not, but George has it. So. He's- So this is the erection of a 4-storey annex building to the existing hotel to provide additional bedrooms with associated works following demolition of the existing. Alistair, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this is the application at Beefeater Restaurant at the Bourne Mill Business Park. It's the erection of a 4-storey annex building to the existing hotel to provide additional bedroom space with associated works following demolition of the existing Beefeater Restaurant. Just first of all, before I go through the presentation, just to let you know, there is an update sheet. Committee members have had a statement circulated to them from the planning agent, which was fairly factual. A couple of pages, just a short précis on the application as the applicants see it. There's also a further comment from Highways in there in response to a proposal by Farnham Town Council in regards to further pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. And there's an amendment to condition 2 and 13, which just arises from an amended site layout plan, which doesn't actually alter the building, but just add some landscaping to the site layout plan. So the site itself is to the east of the Farnham Town Centre. It comprises the existing Beefeater Restaurant, part of the access road to the business park in from Guildford Road, and most of the car park to the south. This is the layout of the proposal, showing the footprint of the building. So it's approximately 5 metres further from the existing Premier Inn than the existing Beefeater Inn, Beefeater Restaurant, pardon me, and it moves closer to the corner, to the junction of the access road and Guildford Road. It's located right up to the front, partly in response to the site's location in floodplains. So it's much of the site is in flood zone 2, and the southern end of the site is flood zone 3, but no development located within that area. So turning to the elevations, this is the north elevation towards Guildford Road. If you perhaps just go back quickly to that site, so you can see that it's an L-shaped building. It's essentially consisting of 2 wings. The one on the left, the westward one, is slightly higher than the wing to the east. On Guildford Road, the elevation recesses around the windows at ground first and second floor level, and clad in red brick, and then a standing seam metal roofing material, and also used to clad the 3rd floor level. Moving around to the east elevation, this is the elevation towards the business park access road. A large part of that to the left-hand side of this elevation is the further away element of the towards the existing Premier Inn. South elevation towards the car park, and then we go just to the least public elevation, which faces towards the Premier Inn building. That would be located about 12 metres from the existing Premier Inn. I'll just flick through the floor plans. They're fairly standard across all floors, but showing the access to the annex on the side which faces the existing Premier Inn. Yeah, first, second and third floor, they're all quite standard. And then looking at the roof plan, which I've included here just to show the size of the building as compared to the existing Premier Inn. So it's a sort of, in terms of footprint, not quite as large as the existing Premier Inn. We've been provided with some CGIs, and what these do, which is different from the elevation drawings, is actually, Justin, would you mind passing me my water bottle? Sorry everyone about that. I'm just got a bit of a dry throat. It's just down the side there. Thank you. Thanks very much. So the CGI shows a slightly different brick in the recessed panels around the windows, which I think sort of helps to illustrate that there is some articulation to the elevations, which are quite relatively plain, but and quite modern and contemporary in appearance. This is from the access road, from the other side of Guildford Road, looking southwest. And I think this illustrates that actually what you see in the elevation from this side is not as bulky as it would first appear from the elevation. And then moving around into the car park, the same elevation from the southern elevation, sorry, from the rear. And then we're moving on to some site photos. So a couple of views of the frontage across the front of the existing Beefeater restaurant and glimpses of the Premier Inn beyond. And this is moving to in front of the existing Premier Inn, so viewing back to the southeast. And another photo from the car park. So the southern end of the existing Premier Inn. And then the car park itself, which is mostly within the site. So I think there's a little bit of failed planting there, which the condition on landscaping provides for replanting of that. And then we've got the closest residential properties, which are at Millbank Close. Closest of these is number 1 Millbank Close, and it's got a separation distance of approximately 33 metres, corner to corner. However, the outlook from the properties at Millbank Close is almost directly south, and so any views of there will be views of the building if it was to be approved and implemented, but they're quite angled views, certainly not in front of the windows of that building. Yeah, so that's the presentation. Thank you very much for that. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hess, you have 4 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. Excuse me, I'm a little croaky. For those who don't know me, I'm Councillor George Hess, one of 2 councillors representing Farnham Castle Ward. The first point I want to make this evening is that I do not object in principle to this hotel being extended, but I absolutely do object to the current proposed design and layout. If you haven't been invited to attend a site visit by the case officer and are not familiar with the location, it might be worth talking you through the vista as you approach this very important eastern gateway into Farnham, that is the Guildford Road. So approaching from the Shepherd and Flock roundabout, the first building on your right is the historic Grade 2 listed Bourne Mill. Then on your left is the Bourne Mill Recycling Centre, screened by lots of trees. Further along on your right, a modern residential terrace, Millbank Close. And then on your left, there is the existing Beefeater restaurant with its neo-Georgian single and two-story elevations, set back and low, which sits well in its setting. What is before you tonight is an application for a monolithic, and you've just seen it on the screen, four-story accommodation block akin to a prison block at Broadmoor, situated towering over the Guildford Road. It can hardly be called an annex since it's bigger than the host building, whereas the existing accommodation block is just 3 stories and faces away from the Guildford Road, screened by trees. The applicant's design and access statement claims the aim is to, and I quote, enhance the overall capacity of the hotel while maintaining the functionality and aesthetics of the existing structure. Well, if you take a look at those pictures, and perhaps the case officer would scroll back to additional information, photos 2 and 3. And the other ones, please. You'll see what I mean. To justify the proposed design, the application references the Premier Inn at South Mimms Potter's Bar, which is a truck stop just off the A1M, which could not be more dramatically different to historic Farnham. The Waverley Urban Design Officer expressed major reservations to the proposal, highlighting issues with the building's scale, its lack of detailing, and its overbearing prominence on the street scene. Under Policy DM4, a scheme of this significance on a main gateway into Farnham should have undergone a formal design review, which has been ignored by the applicant. There have also been objections from residents to the current proposal, with the Farnham Town Council and the Farnham Society both objecting twice. So, to try to find a way forward, I'd like to propose a possible solution, which would be for the applicant and their agents to reorientate the building so that the proposed new accommodation is set back to the rear of the site, away from the Guildford Road, with car parking to the front, and to provide a landscaping scheme with shrubs and trees to the Guildford Road frontage, along with a new short metalled footpath to replace the muddy track that runs along the verge in front of the site. This would provide hotel guests access to the adjacent retail park with its new M&S food store. I believe these relatively straightforward changes would make the scheme more acceptable. Accordingly, I ask the committee to agree to defer this application to allow the applicant and agent to seriously consider this proposal and come back with an amended scheme. And thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me a couple of extra moments. And thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Coburn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, or Madam Chairman, sorry, wrong meeting. Yeah, I couldn't disagree more, actually. I remember when the first application came in and we made them jump through hoops in terms of design. And they went round the whole of the town and they walked round, and the original building was designed with the maltings in mind, because we had said this is an industrial estate, you know, can you link it into Farnham's industry? And that's exactly what they did. And in fact, you know, the CGI does not give the frontage, the sort of the interest, I suppose, that it deserves. I am just delighted that Premier Inn think it's worth doing a hotel extension in Farnham. Farnham is like most towns, it's dying and it is a mess. Guildford Road has been a mess as long as I've lived in Farnham. Yes, you've got some nice properties now, but they are more recent. It used to have the old hospital building with all sorts of things flying around. You've got the tip here and behind, and the reason I presume they're putting it near the road is because you've got the industrial estate behind it. So why would you put your hotel right next to the industry? It wouldn't make any sense at all. The Beefeater Inn didn't work, obviously, although some of us had some good meals there. You know, as I say, I'm delighted they haven't just pulled the plug and said, oh, well, we'll go. We've actually got something that's going to bring life into that part of the town. We've got more work to do. We've now got the new Marks and Spencers, as you say, which creates its own problems. If you like queuing, you're in the right place because you queue for the tip and you queue for Marks and Spencers, and half the time you don't know which queue you're in. But you know, this is Guildford Road. It is industrial. It's, you know, as you get further in, obviously you get more residential, but then most of it is, you know, what it is. It is an industrial space. And I actually think this will be fine once it's bedded in, once people are there, you know, once it's got some life. I think there will be some landscaping. I mean, the Beefeater itself was always quite attractive once it was up and running, just nobody in it. So, you know, I'm not pessimistic about this. I think it's a bit of a shot in the arm for Farnham at a time when, as I say, it needs new buildings and it needs a bit of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro.
I'm rather torn about this. I think that at the moment, the Guildford Road, which I use often, I'm sure other people do, I think it looks visually quite attractive, oddly enough. It's varied. You've got the where Marks and Spencer is now, just beyond. It's sort of buzzy. I'm not saying that the community recycling centre looks attractive. It does not, but as has been said, it is well screened. On the other side of the road, you've got the Bourne Mill and some very well designed, to my mind, flats and houses beyond it. If the CGI is at all accurate, this will not enhance the street scene whatsoever. But at the same time, it would be nice to have more hotel space in Farnham. If only we could be presented with a slightly smaller and more interesting design, I would certainly support it. I'm not sure whether I can see a planning reason to refuse this application, unfortunately. Although I would be rather tempted if there were. I'd like to take advice from officers.
So members, as we've recommended for approval, we don't think there is a planning reason to refuse it. So my advice would be that, you know, the scheme is as submitted. Obviously, with any commercial scheme, there's a point that it has to be at to make it viable. So things like taking a floor off probably means that it wouldn't be viable and they would walk away from this site. But, you know, our recommendation is that this is an acceptable form of development. It supports the economy of the town, will bring in tourism, visitors, footfall to the town centre, etc., etc. So, you know, hence the recommendation for approval.
Councillor Beeman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think the most telling paragraph in the whole report is at the bottom of 107, which is the council's urban design officer, however, identified several design issues, including legibility of the building, scale, relationship with the existing hotel, including the legibility of the entrance and the reception, materials, lack of detailing in the elevations and prominence in the street scene. Given the location on the main route into the town centre and the scale of the building, the urban design officer suggested that design review would be helpful. I really to ignore such advice from the council officer, I would say, yes. And even over the page, I'm staggered to read that the council's conservation officer commented on, I know the comments have been made regarding the design of the building. I make no comment on the design of the proposed building, okay, but poor design does not necessarily mean there is heritage harm, really. I think Councillor Hurst has been very generous in saying suggesting a deferment, and certainly if there was, so that there could be further discussions on this matter. I think that's something that I'd like to propose, if anybody was willing to second that, of course, that I'd like to think that it could be deferred for further discussion. Because the town does need additional accommodation, yes. And although I would say Guildford Road itself is an issue at the moment with traffic congestion caused by the tip and the and Marks and Spencers. So, but really, are we really going to ignore the advice of the council's urban design officer? Thank you.
So members, can I just remind you that there will be competing views in any planning application or most planning applications, and our role as planning officers and your role as planning committee is to balance the different competing objectives against one another and come to a balanced decision. And therefore, in this case, the urban designer has made comments about the design and would like a different design, but there are other planning considerations that you must weigh in the balance in coming to your recommendation tonight.
Thank you. Councillor MacLeod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I normally agree with Councillor Coburn on most applications, but not actually on this occasion. I do agree with the points that she made about it's a good thing to see the Premier Inn being enhanced and improved and extended from the point of view of the town and the town's economy. But I think this is a particularly ugly looking building, actually. Councillor Hess, maybe it was slightly unfair to describe it as looking like a prison, but it's still a very ugly looking building, actually. And it certainly doesn't enhance this approach to the town. I thought the previous Beefeater building was a nice looking building, actually. And it seemed quite popular. I ate there several times, actually. And I think this is this is far from being an improvement. It's the exact opposite. It's a really ugly building, and I just don't like it at all. So I'm not going to be supporting this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steiger.
I don't think that's an attractive building, but most hotels, modern hotels, aren't. I think it will be excellent for Farnham. I think Farnham, with the closure of the Bishop's Table Hotel, is lacking hotel rooms. I think, as has been said before, Farnham really does need extra economic activity, and I'm fully in support of this. I would like to see the pathway outside, which is the muddy track that we have to walk through. Can that in any way be incorporated in as a condition? Because obviously this will be bringing a lot more hotel guests there. Do they all have to walk through the mud, or can we sort of make sure that the hotel builds a path there that everybody can use? I don't know if we can make that a condition or not, but that's my view. Thank you.
So members, it is outside the red line, so we wouldn't be able to impose a condition around the improvement of the footpath.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Gale.
Yeah, I think it's a big bulk as you drive along that Guildford Road. And that's when you look at the red line that they've got to work with. I really can't see why we couldn't ask if it could be shuffled backwards so that it takes the bulk away from that road scene and makes it a little bit more acceptable. I appreciate you need a hotel there. Towns are crying out for more accommodation, and I think it's really good that they want to come. But it just seems they've stuck it right on the edge, and it's very big, it's bulky. It's not very attractive in my view. But if it's not possible to go back to them, as I think the planning director has said, you know, if we go back to them and ask them to reconsider, they maybe just won't even bother to come. So it's a bit of a tricky one.
So members, just to advise you that moving the building back would cause you another problem in that it's floodplain. I think you also need to be mindful that even just looking at this block plan and asking the case officer, what are the buildings around this? They are big industrial sheds. So just in the context of what you're looking at in terms of design, you need to look at it in the context of the immediate environment as well when you make your decision.
Councillor Keane.
Thank you. Well, I have to say it's the most ugly looking building really, but to be honest, as Councillor Steiger said, most hotels don't tend to be very pretty.
But the fact of the matter is that, you know, it is true that in many of the towns, and I'm in Haslemere, and, you know, one of our hotels closed, and that was a really bad time for us because, you know, people were coming in and had nowhere to stay. So I think, you know, it's making the best of a job, but bringing in people and footfall into Farnham, you know, I don't see how we can possibly refuse it really, but I do think it's ugly.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to permit myself a few words. Think that beauty of design is in the eye of the beholder. We're living in a time when Battersea Power Station, which we all would have considered to be very ugly, is now desirable housing, as are mill buildings up and down this country. There's one across the road from here that has Bernardo's shop on the ground floor. That would have been considered absolutely monolithic, now very desirable. Any other speakers? Councillor Hess, you can sum up if you'd like.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I said right at the beginning of my short presentation that I'm not against this hotel having an extension. It's just having an attractive extension that will enhance our town, and one that is not bulk and massing and creating an ugly building where you don't need to have an ugly building. I mean, you're starting from a blank sheet of paper, you can build a beautiful building. As far as the floodplain is concerned, look, Marks and Spencers have just invested a great deal of money way further back in their new store. So I think the floodplain argument is bogus, frankly. And if you would like some policies to support a deferral, TD1, Design Development Part 1, ensuring high quality design requires new development to respect the scale, density, bulk, massing and surrounding buildings and take into account street view or character of the area. DM1, Design and Amenity Part 2, reinforces the need for high quality, sustainable design that integrates well with the site and surroundings, which this does not. Policy DM4, Quality Places Through Design, Local Plan Part 2, mandates high quality design for all new developments, requires proposals to reinforce local distinctiveness, respond to landscape, townscape character, ensure sustainable, safe and accessible environments. You've got plenty of policies there. We don't have to have this ugly building right up on the Guildford Road. It could be moved back, it could be softened, it could happen and it wouldn't be a big deal. Premier Inn are a massive company. They're not likely to walk away. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Well, we do have a recommendation that subject to conditions permission be granted. So it's up to you to vote now. Somebody not voted?
Oh, no, got it now. Thank you, Chair. So that's 7 in favour, 4 against and no abstentions, therefore it's carried.
Thank you. So now we come to our next one, which is WA 2025-00727, Site F, Oxford Ridge. An application under Regulation 3 for the erection of 20 affordable dwellings with installation of air source heat pumps, PV panels, together with car parking, amenity space, etc., following demolition of existing 12. Alistair, you again.
Just while we're waiting, I mean, these three final ones are just so much something to be nodded through. You know, I hope we don't spend hours finding the IT and debating it, because, you know, we're looking at a condition for one of them. One's only in because it's Waverley property, so I hope we're not going to waste a huge amount of time. Yeah.
Councillor Coburn, all I can say is I am minded to agree.
Yep, we're good. Okay, thanks. Thank you for waiting. Yeah, we're getting used to this laptop, and hopefully by next time we'll have it completely. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. All right. So this is Site F, Regeneration Area, Oxford Ridge. It's an application which we saw in February at committee for the erection of 20 affordable houses following the demolition of 12 existing dwellings. So the committee resolution in February was to grant planning permission subject to an agreement to secure the affordable housing and conditions, and it was amended to take account of the fact that we hadn't got a consultation comment from the lead local flood authority at that point. So subject to no objection from them. They subsequently made comments. They did object. They also provided the alternative scenario where we use conditions to control the issues around surface water flooding. So it would require further information on infiltration and technical matters. The head of planning was not, or assistant director was not authorised under the scheme of delegation to add conditions. So it's simply come back to ask you and recommend that we add the conditions as per the lead local flood authority's comments. Thank you. Sorry, rattle through.
Is it your wish that we agree this? Agreed. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Well,
Our next application is therefore WA 2026 00113 21 Kiln Avenue, Hazelmere. Thank you, Terry. Erection of ancillary outbuilding as amended by plans received. And this is retrospective.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. This application is a retrospective application for rear outbuilding at number 21 Kiln Avenue. On the left-hand side, we got the location plan outlined in red, and on the right-hand side, we got the aerial view outlined in blue. We can see the outbuilding at the rear of number 21, hashed in red. And this is the floor plan and roof plan of the outbuilding, followed by the elevations. These are some photographs to give you a bit of context. On the top left, it's the outbuilding as seen from the street scene of Kiln Avenue. At the bottom left, it's the outbuilding as seen from inside number 21, the guard of number 1 Kiln Avenue, if you sit in between the conservatory and the shed. And on the top right, it is you can just about see above the fence, the roof of the outbuilding is seen from the public realm to the west of the application site. Here we've got some more views from number 21 looking towards the neighboring property to the east as you look at the rear boundaries, a close-up of the outbuilding, and then a photograph bottom left taken from the boundary between number 21 and number 20, where we can see an existing play area. So the outbuilding, it's not seated near the main amenity area, which is located directly to the rear of number 20. It's near some play equipment, so it won't result in unacceptable overbearing impact or loss of light. We now got the views from the two properties at the rear. Again, we can just about see top left, the top of the outbuilding, and bottom left, the top of the outbuilding behind the neighbor's own outbuilding in green. And then on the top right, there is a view from number 21 towards number 22. And we can see that is located on higher ground level than the application site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gale? No? Are there any speakers? Are we minded to agree? To approve? Councillor Gale?
Yeah, I do have just one question.
Yes.
What height is the building, please?
It's 2.6 meter high.
Certainly. Yeah.
Sorry, I believe 2.5 is the limit if it's close up to a boundary. Is that correct?
So it can be as high as you need to assess impact. So it's got a slight slope to it. So it goes from 2.475 to 2.6 as it slopes upwards.
Councillor Beeman?
It's a retrospective planning application, which I really don't like, particularly for whatever reasons. Therefore, I mean, I understand it's only a small ancillary building, but on a point of principle, I think I have to vote against it.
So members, just to remind you that the fact it's retrospective doesn't mean it's something that's unacceptable.
Appreciate that, but it's just a thing I have about it. It's a retrospective planning application.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor MacLeod?
I'm not going to vote against it, but I agree with Councillor Beeman. The council should be setting a better example, actually, than applying for retrospective, doing something in advance and applying for retrospective permission. But that's not going to make me vote against it, actually.
Can I just confirm it's the tenant that carried out this, not the council themselves?
Oh, okay. Oh, that meant I feel better about it now.
Councillor Monroe? No. Are there any other speakers? No. So the recommendation is that this is granted. When lights show, please vote.
Thank you, Chair. That's 7 in favour, 1 abstention and 2 against.
So that is carried. Our next one tonight is WA 2026-00460, the regeneration area at the Green Oxford Ridge.
Thank you, Chair. This application is brought in front of the committee as the council is the applicant. It's important to remember this is a temporary permission and the third application, so it's been renewed the third time. This application is required in order to support the Oxford Ridge redevelopment programme, facilitate the completion of Site C, support commencement of Site F and possibly Site E in the future. So this is the site plan outlined in red, and this is the footprint of the site showing a material storage area to the front, contractors parking and some well facilities in the middle. Just again to remember, this is already there, and it's the third renewal of this application. Thank you. Oh, sorry, this was some photographs of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Coburn.
I'm just intrigued. I'm obviously not going to vote against this, but are we running out? I mean, how many times can we keep renewing this? You know, I mean, I thought the whole point of these temporary things was to get the job done. And I understand the issues if you can't actually do it. But, you know, this is the third time and just get a bit repetitive.
I think that's noted. It's obviously a project that's taken longer than expected.
Any other speakers? Councillor Gale.
I'd just like it noted that those poor people have had to put up with this for so long and now they're going to be given another 5 years. And it is a mess up there. It really is. Is there anything we can do that we ask the contractors to try to keep that area tidy and well kept or anything like that? Because even now it looks a mess.
I have to disagree, Councillor Gale. We were up there recently and it's really very tidy. And it is a work site, therefore, you know, it's a work site. Are there any other speakers? No. So the recommendation is to grant. When lights show, please vote.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous in favour. That is carried and that's the end of the meeting. Thank you.